In this video, I'm going to be showing you Open Interpreter, which is an open source, locally running implementation of OpenAI's code interpreter. So what Open Interpreter allows you to do is within a terminal instance, by simply running the interpreter command, you'll be able to interact with it similar to how you would a ChatGPT with the code interpreter plugin turned on. Now, the one thing that's really neat with this project is it allows you to both use OpenAI's LLMs, such as GPT 3.5 Turbo, as well as GPT-4, but it also allows you to use models like CodeLlama or open source models from Hugging Face. So to install this, it's as simply as running the pip install open interpreter command. Now this is assuming that you do have Python installed and appropriate versions and all of that. And once you've run through that, you can just go ahead and simply within your terminal type interpreter. Now the first time that you run this, you'll get a screen where you get to choose essentially two different paths. So there's the OpenAI path and then there's the CodeLlama path. So if you want to take the OpenAI path, you can put in your API key just like that. There's also another approach, which I'm going to show you in just a second here. But say if you take the CodeLlama path, just click enter. It will ask you to specify which model you'd like to use. So let's say I want to use the 13B parameter count model. You can see that there's the size of the model, the estimated RAM and all of that. Now, if you go through this, it will actually go through and start to download the model and install everything that you need to get going with that. Now, in this example, I'm not actually going to show you that and have you wait on screen and see that model download and all of that. I'm just going to instead take the OpenAI route for things. So if I run that command again, interpreter, and I'll show you where to go if you haven't used the OpenAI API yet. So just go to platform.openai.com/account/API keys. You can make an account. If it's the first time you made an OpenAI account, you should get some credits for free. Simply create a secret key. You can grab that and you can put it here. Now, the one thing you will notice is as soon as you do run it for the first time, so say you put in your API key, you'll see that there is a tip and it says, run this command, and essentially this tip is so that as you exit in and out of the open interpreter here, you won't have to continually put in your API key. So I definitely encourage you, after you put in your API key, or even just put in tests like I did, just grab that line, exit out, export OpenAI_key, paste in your key, and run that command. And then every time you run it, like you'll see within your instance of the terminal, if I just click interpreter, I won't have that prompt to put in my API key. So you see the model is set to GPT-4, and I'll just quickly show you how you can change it to GPT 3.5. So if you say interpreter, and all you need to do is -- fast. So that's the flag to use GPT 3.5 Turbo. Now, one other thing that I just want to show you is if you do want to avoid having to confirm the prompts where it asks you to run code, which you'll see in just a second, you can also interpreter -y. And you can also do this with GPT 3.5 Turbo if you'd like. So that -y will just circumvent it having to continue to ask you. So the next thing that I'm going to show you is just some simple examples. So if I just run interpreter and I clear this, so I have an empty directory as you see here. So I list it out, there's nothing there, and I say, make me a hello world file. You can see, okay, here's the plan. I'm going to make a hello world.txt. Let's start with creating a file, etc., etc. Okay, so do you want to run the code? Yes. Okay, now it's been created. Now let's move on to step 2. Now I tried this before recording, and usually it is a little bit less verbose than this example, but let's just go with this approach for now. So you see, it's going to echo out hello world within that file. So if I just ls, we see our hello world, and then if I vi hello world, there's our hello world. So we'll just exit out of that. Now I'll just exit out of this example here, and you can have multiple threads within it, but I'm just going to go ahead and try maybe a bit more of an involved example for you. So I'm going to say, I want an Express server. Start a new node project for me that logs out hello world from a GET request. So here's the plan. They're going to create a directory for the node project. They're going to initialize it, etc., etc. So we're going to make a folder. Yes. So these are the commands where if you want to circumvent and have it just execute all these commands for you, you can pass in that -y flag when you run interpreter. So I'll go -y again. We see, okay, and if I just ls out here, and I'll go within the Express server so we see what it's doing. So there's the package JSON. Do you want to install Express? So if I were to go in and look at the package here, you can see now there's Express. I'll just exit out of that. Okay, so now it's creating the server.js. Do you want me to run this code? Yes. Okay, so it didn't find the command here. So that's the other thing that's interesting with this project is sometimes if it makes errors, it will try and self-correct itself, which is pretty neat to see. Would I like to run this code? Yes. So interesting approaches. It's definitely a project where I wouldn't be surprised if, while you start to play around with this initially, that you run into some bugs and whatnot, but I found it's just a really interesting implementation, especially to have it open source and be able to play around with it. So I think there's going to be a lot of cool implementations of this coming out over the next several weeks and months and whatnot, but very cool project. So I encourage you to check it out, go to the GitHub, star the repo, shout out to the contributors on this project. Excellent work, really cool tool to play around with. That's pretty much it for this one. I just wanted to bring this to your attention, but if you found this video useful, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and consider becoming a patron on Patreon.